Yeah, there it is.
You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is a place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
How you doing, Taylor?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, the gentleman across from me needs no introduction. Otto Arslanovski is well known, infamous, some would say. But I'm really pleased to have him in on the show because I want to talk about running a business in these times and just whatever else is on his mind. You know, I had one of our other sponsors, Michelle Umphrey from Hotworks, and we talked about her business a little bit, but she wanted to just talk about what she's thinking about things and going on in the world, you know. Yeah. So we may end up doing that at great risk. But anyway, but Otto, of course, is one of our place, and if you haven't been to our place, then you're definitely missing out. But every time I go over there, it's so crowded, I don't think many people are missing out.
No.
Well, previous Friday, you know, I didn't have to work. Robin didn't have to work. And I went over there. We drove over there about mid-morning, and we couldn't find a parking spot. And so I said, well, maybe we could still have seats in there. So she was driving, so I ran in there, and I saw a big old crowd in the lobby and a couple of people sitting outside on that big chair. And I said, we might have to do this another time.
You know what? Even when it's busy, though, your wait shouldn't be longer than 10 minutes.
I've never had to wait more than 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, don't you know who I am?
I know.
I walk in the door, like, you know, I'm a big shot here, and I am going to have to wait. You know, your little girl that runs the front counter is pretty expert of deflating my ego. So
yes, she is.
Yeah. So she's like, you can wait with the rest of these people and shut up.
You know what, though? I will say, if you walk in wearing one of these brand new Mr. Allard's Neighborhood hats, you should get right in.
You should. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to get me into a lot of places.
Yeah.
But we're going to visit, like I said, about a lot of things. But let's go over the sponsors first, at least the first round. Taylor, am I hooked up on Facebook, or am I just not seeing it?
Yes, you are.
All right. Well, send me a link anyway, because I can't see it. I'm really, really bad about this stuff. Okay. Anyway, Daniel over at CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire, over behind Stone Soup. I bet you've been to Stone Soup. I've seen you in other places.
You don't get a body like this from not eating.
Well, I'm just saying, do you feel like you're betraying our place by going
there? No, I eat at almost every restaurant in town.
Yeah, and so I've seen you at...
independent restaurants. I try and avoid the chains.
Yes. Stephen Carl Jansen says, I need a Mr. Allard's hat to wear at the farmer's market when I cook. I will make sure you'll get one, sir. He also, you know, Stephen is having a cookbook produced.
Yeah.
And so when he gets on there, gets it done, I'm going to have a spot for I love to cook.
We had dinner at Stephen's house. He's an amazing cook. Absolutely amazing.
Yes, he is. And I've stolen a couple of his recipes.
Yeah, us too.
Okay. Yeah, but for you make money from it. Me, you know, okay. Anyway, CrossFit Burleson. Sorry, Daniel, we got a little off track. Shandy, the real estate queen of this area. She knows where the real estate is. You know, a lot of these homes are being sold before they even are listed, so you need somebody. I mean, it's tough finding a home in Burleson.
It is.
Or this whole area, in fact, not just Burleson proper, but and I talk with city council members or the mayor or whatever about these development projects, and it's just going to get even more so.
Yeah.
You know, whatever is heading our way nationally for the economy, we may hopefully be shielded from some of that because just people want to move here.
Texas has usually been done pretty well when everyone else didn't.
I remember back in the late 70s, you know, when I lived in Plano, we had all these Yankees moving in, and they were complaining about the heat and, like, you know, all this other stuff. And so, why are you here? Well, it's because the jobs are here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's but not only just that, Burleson's gotten a reputation for being a good place to live, and I attributed that to a really great police force and a really great school system. And we are blessed to have those. Not every community can say that. And so when people move here, Sandy will tell me that's one of the first two things they ask about is security and education. And so anyway, talk to Sandy if you're looking to move into this area. Also Rex over at Russell Wealth Group. Rex Russell's been doing this for a long time. He hit the box there, or the link rather, myfinancialbox.com. He's been doing it for 35 years. We went to college together, even though we were
here.
Yeah, we went to Baylor together. We graduated together. I didn't really know him very well then. I don't think I knew him at all because he was studying and I was not. But anyway, but he's a good man to talk to about these economic times because he has a lot of experience, 35 years of up and down, so he can help you. Hit myfinancialbox.com. You'll be good to go. Sherry Scott says, good morning. She's also said Bill Janish would like Bill Janish says he'd like a hat when he goes and speak before the council. I'm not sure you'd get out alive, Bill. But anyway, so Southern Gym. Have you taken Monica over here?
I've not been there yet.
You need to, but
I'm thinking about going tomorrow.
good. My wife works there in the summer, and she's going to be retiring soon from the school system, and she's going to be working there more when this happens. But she's working today, and she'll be there. I don't think she's there tomorrow, but she'll be there Thursday and Friday. And I promise you, Monica's going to walk in there, and she likes jewelry at all. She's going to. It's like Christmas morning. Gail has really great inventory, but she also can. If you have jewelry you need repaired, take it to her.
Well, my wife's wedding ring, we bought it when we were not as good economically.
Young, broken in love.
Yeah, so we're wanting to upgrade her ring, and we're thinking about stopping there and looking.
Well, she absolutely is the person to do that because she also designs rings as well, and appraises the full service. And so if you walked in there and said we want to kind of upgrade this ring, she'd have all these good ideas. And so
that's what I hear.
Yeah, and it's really, and she's a very sweet woman too. So and she's on top of the Windmiller building. If you didn't know where that was, okay. Also, Michelle Humphrey over at Hot Works over in 731, over in the Commons as it's called, over by Kroger and the theaters and whatnot. Infrared workouts, 11 different types. And so if you want to do rowing, you want to do biking, you want to do aerobics, Pilates, you name it, she got it. A lot of people like this because you can get a good workout at less time because it's infrared without all the heat frustration, I guess you'd get to the stress, You try to work out like that outside in this heat, it's dangerous. There, it's in a controlled environment and a safe environment. You just don't walk in. You have to know the codes or stuff like that. So it's a good and clean and safe environment. And lastly, the person who made Mr. Allard's Neighborhood hat and cups and whatever else, they are made by Mandy Harden, Creative Concepts by Mandy over in 1187. It's not too far from Jambo's, if you know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you go to all these other restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And, you're not just, so dialed in on yours that you like to go sample others.
Absolutely.
Do you steal from them and like ideas or
what's
recipes?
funny? One of the restaurants you'll find me at a lot is Fresco's.
Yeah, me too.
And
as long as it's not our place. Yeah.
Jaime, the manager there, he was talking to a table next to our table, and he tells a customer, "Hey, guess what? We have dinner rolls and honey butter now. Would you like some?" Mm-hmm. So he jokes about stealing some of what we do, and vice versa.
It's like the 3 Mexican food places here in town. I like for different reasons. I mean, there's more than 3.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like the Mirandas and Antonios, the standards.
Yeah.
And I like them too. But I like El Phoenix. And it's it's very standard stuff, but I love it actually.
Good chips and salsa.
Yeah, you betcha. And I like Fresco's, and I like Mambo's. But I haven't been to Antonio's and Miranda's in a little while. But I mean, who hasn't gone there?
I've not been to Mambo's yet. I've been to the one in Hewlin.
It's I like it pretty well. It just depends on what you're looking for in Mexican food.
I remember liking their bar a lot. They had a really well-stocked bar.
I understand. They serve alcoholic drinks at Mambo's. I had no idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, whatever. Brenda Herndon says good morning, and she has her coffee cup. I guess she saw your post. Thank you very much. Catherine's watching as well. Anyway, let's talk about the restaurant business. Last time I was there, that you were there, you came and sat down and visited with the B&I person I was with. I think it was Michelle. I'm not sure. And a couple of your employees kept coming up to you and said, well, the shipment didn't have this. Benny Keith didn't have that and all this. And has this become a real consistent problem, shortages and just things, not even just food, but just all sorts of things you need for the restaurant?
It's been a problem for the last 6 months, and it's getting worse. And not just short, but things are outrageously priced. Mm-hmm. Straws, I used to pay $40 for a case of straws. They're $130 now. And no one can really tell me why.
$130 for a box of straws?
For a case of straws, yeah. 12 boxes of 1,000.
So it's gone up by a factor of 3.
Yeah.
And how short a time? Last 6 months or
last 6
year?
months? And the Texas Restaurant Association claims prices have gone up only 17%.
That's not true.
Yeah, no, it's not true at all.
And I remember another time a few months ago, you couldn't get lids for your cups.
Yeah.
And another time, I think at this meeting I'm talking about, you couldn't get chicken.
Well, the avian flu hit, and they killed a lot of birds that made eggs, so we couldn't get eggs at a reason. I think eggs were, for a while, they're $80 a case.
Good heavens.
Yeah.
Well, see, I've been there pretty often. I go there, I would bet, on a monthly basis 5 to 6 times. And I haven't seen an increase in your prices, so it must be squeezing something.
That's actually a mistake I made when the prices started going up. You know, they go up and down, they fluctuate all year long. So I thought, you know what, this will pass and we'll get back to normal. But I think the prices now may be the new normal. So we will have some menu price increases shortly.
Yeah,
And I've talked to other restaurant owners in town, Old South Pancake House, Fresco's, they're all going to do the same thing. It's just sign of the times.
well, I eat breakfast there every other week with some men from my Sunday school class, and I've been paying the same thing for my meal consistently. But I know, since I know you and you told me the story, I know the prices have gone up.
Yeah.
I just thinking, this idea that you must be rolling in dough because your business is always busy isn't really 100% accurate. It sounds like your profit margin's been squeezed quite a bit.
It's squeezed. We're not going backwards.
Yeah.
We're holding steady, and we will do some price increases. But we also did things like focused on portion control and waste. And, back in the day, say, for instance, chicken pot pies, we would make 40. And at the end of the day, if we had too many, I'd call local charities or people to come pick them up. Now we make 25. And when we're out at 2 o'clock, we're out.
Yeah.
So we just dialed back on some of the prepared items we make.
Well, that's unfortunate in a way because chicken pot pie in particular is one of your specialties.
Oh, yeah.
In shepherd's pie, I've had that at your place before, and the chicken fried steak. I mean, I know, you're as a sponsor and a friend and whatnot, but you really do have a great restaurant. And,
We try.
I'm not just saying that because, you help put these shows on the air, but it really is a place. One thing we talked about before the show, one thing I like about it is it really is an all-inclusive, welcoming place. I walk in there and I see families of every distinction there. Black families, Hispanic families, young, old, whatnot, you name it. And I don't think that happens by, some sort of advertising campaign. I think it happens organically. People know where they're welcome. And they know that they come in there, they're whatever, doesn't matter.
I didn't notice that until last time you said it to me. And I guess it's true.
Well, it is true. I mean, and also I like the fact that you have police there. I know you give them a discount and such, but and which is to your credit. But I like the fact that I'm sitting 2 tables away from maybe 4 officers of the law. Not that I expect anything to happen. I really don't. You never expect it to happen. But it's nice to see there. It's almost like your own security force, if you will. So I really do appreciate that.
There's that old adage, if the cops and firefighters are eating there, it must be good.
Exactly right. I don't think I've ever been there for lunch or breakfast. I haven't seen at least one table of police officers.
We're lucky the Fort Worth Training Academy is real close. So on their break, those guys come down too.
Well, that's pretty handy. Yeah. Now, as far as back to the pricing and whatnot, is this impacted also your wage scale?
Wages have gone up quite a bit. I don't think I have an employee making under $15 an hour.
That's incredible because I remember doing that same work, back when I was a kid for like $2.45 was the minimum wage or something like that. Of course, that shows how old I am. But $15 an hour, it may not make a career out of it, but it does probably help a lot of these younger people that are trying to get established.
Oh, yeah.
Or if they're, students. You don't employ a lot of high school kids, though, I've seen.
We have a couple. Mainly they're children of my other employees. But for the most part, most of my employees are full-time, permanent employees that have been there 6, 7, 9 years.
Yeah, I noticed that also. I've gone there pretty consistently, and I see the same people. I don't see the amount of turnover. How do you not have this kind of turnover that that a lot of other places seem to have?
We get hold of their passports and IDs and don't give them back.
It helps. And you put them in some sort of little installation in the back. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
No, we treat everyone with respect. I see these guys as much, if not more, than I see my own families. So we have good relationships. We work together all day. We go out to dinner at restaurants at night. Everyone is treated fairly, from the dishwasher to the busboy to the chef. We're all treated equally. But
the service is great, and then I have to say that probably also means every now and then you got to trim the employee or two that isn't on board.
I think in the 10 years I've been there, I might have fired 4 people.
Yeah.
And each and every time it's gut wrenching because I hire people I like. I don't hire people I don't like.
Right.
So it's never an easy thing.
Catherine says you have quite a few from the NAS, the Naval Air Station.
Yeah, we do.
And they come in and they love the lasagna special.
Yeah.
I need to try that then because I like Italian food a lot.
It's the heavy meal. It's like grandma's lasagna.
Grandma's lasagna. Okay. But I'm the kind that when I find something I like, I stick with it at the restaurants. I probably Fresco's have the same enchilada type dinner. And, I know they have all this great stuff, but it's like, I like this, and I came for this.
For me at Fresco's, it's a brisket tacos every time.
Yeah. For Robin too, she likes those.
They're very good.
Yeah, and so, but that is a sign of how you treat people. Particularly, I know that when the pandemic hit a couple of years ago, you took great pains to take care of your people.
Yeah, we got 2 PPP loans and PPP, and used 100% of it to pay the employees.
Well, see, not everybody does that.
No, I know.
Not everybody did that then or do it now. And I was mentioning this before the show about a month ago. Rob and I were in Dallas, and we were at a restaurant, and the service wasn't very good. And it wasn't because the poor young lady that was doing the serving was just loafing around. She was bouncing around like a pinball, but they just didn't have enough staff.
Yeah.
And they were short a couple of cooks. Oh, good heavens. This is my diabetes alarm. If I turn it off, it makes a noise, and I'm on the Libra 2 now, and it's just a real pain in the rump. But, what can you say? Oh, my numbers are good anyway.
Good.
So, but no, it's, we could talk about specialized menus. You do have gluten-free, right?
We have gluten-free. We have everything you order is made from scratch. Mm-hmm. So if you come in and say, I can't have oil on my food, we'll find a way to make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a friend that has to eat gluten-free, and when we get together, it's always, a struggle to find it, not just a place that serves it, but serves it properly. I mean, that so that it didn't taste like crud. But
what we do, we have a purple cutting board, a purple knife, purple tongs that are used specifically for gluten allergies.
Really?
So there's no cross-contamination. If gluten will kill you, I tell everyone to go eat somewhere else or eat at home. Mm-hmm. But if you have a sensitivity to it, you're pretty safe at our restaurant.
Well, my friend's not going to die from it. It's just a sensitivity. It gives him a rash.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. But he's, it didn't last very long, but it's uncomfortable. But we have to go gluten-free.
You'd be safe at my restaurant.
Right. And of course, I just mentioned my diabetes. There are some things that are lighter in a sense, not just salads and such, but smaller portions maybe.
We do that too, half portions of all of our meals.
Right, and that helps me a bunch. How many people come up to you and say, you need to be open for dinner?
All day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Is that ever a possibility?
I don't see it happening. One of the cool things about my restaurant is the consistency. Mm-hmm. You're always going to see the same staff. You're pretty much going to have the same experience. Mm-hmm. My staff all of them work 5 days a week. They work full time. Mm-hmm. Many of my people came from places where they'd come in for 3 hours in the morning and come back for 4 hours at night. Mm-hmm. You get burnt out. You have no life. My employees are home before their kids get out of school.
Yeah.
So I think that helps us keep quality employees.
Well, that's true. And I would imagine, the amount of increased expense in opening up until like say 10 o'clock at night would that make it worth it or not?
No, we'd have a rush for dinner that may last 2 hours, but we're still working 8 hours.
Right. I personally think you got the right combination. Yeah. Because your people can still have a life. You seem to be having a life. Every time I pick up the Facebook, I'm at this place and that place. You were at Dubai, about 2 months ago?
Yeah, I went to Dubai. That was an experience.
What was that all about? Just because you wanted to? Or what?
No, my brother-in-law is an architect, and the architecture firm he works for was the same firm that was in charge of the World Expo. It's like the World Fair.
Right.
So his management strongly encouraged him to go, and he asked if we would go with them. Mm-hmm. And we just had a blast. It was quite the experience. Beautiful place.
Yeah. Well, and also just recently you were in Chicago, your hometown.
Yeah.
But that was family, wasn't it?
That was an engagement party, and it turned out at the end of the trip, my son proposed to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I got a new daughter.
Yeah, the poor overworked Ryan.
Yeah.
I see him now. If I go there on a Tuesday and Wednesday, that's your days off, right?
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah. And I go in there even on other days and I say, hey, is Otto around? And the staff just starts laughing. Are you kidding me? It's not 10 o'clock yet, and that kind of stuff.
I roll in about 9.
Yeah.
But I'm there till 6 or 7 every night.
I know, but when I see you, I always make funny when I'm doing the ad rotations about how you walk around like Frank Sinatra or something like that, schmoozing with the guests. And
I love it. Yesterday I got to meet a Burleson officer's son, and we had a blast just hanging out.
That's how Joe Pesci got into movies. He was a maitre d' at a famous restaurant in New York, and Scorsese caught him. He was doing a Pesci kind of routine. He was making all these jokes with the customers. And he said, I could put them in the movie. And he put them in Raging Bull.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So maybe some town
There's hope for
say,
me, yeah.
yeah, I could put you in there. You could take over for Stallone and, you know, you could be in like Expendables 5.
No more flipping eggs for me.
How much cooking do you actually do?
You know, I go back there and I cook a couple times a week. My guys prefer me not to cook because I'm pretty messy. But, you know, we've had instances where somebody has COVID. If you pretty much get a headache at my restaurant, I send you home. I don't want to risk getting the rest of the staff sick.
Right.
So I've gone back there and cooked for a couple hours, and I love it. I enjoy it. That's how I started.
Well, other than the pandemic, I mean, COVID is still popped up, and it may pop up again. How do you handle that? I mean, is it you just sometimes have to work short-staffed?
Yeah, we overstaff. You know, on a Saturday, I'll have 6 guys on my line and 3 prep people, but everybody is cross-trained. So if someone fails, they can come on over and take that spot of the person that got sick.
Wow.
So we're covered pretty well.
Well, I worked in a restaurant when I was much younger, and it's a hard job.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I mean, it's a physical job. You're on your feet. You have to work and not in a hurry, but without wasted time.
And now it's 120 degrees
Yeah,
back there.
and I was back in the kitchen, and, you know, those big old stoves are blasting away, and even in the wintertime, it was pretty warm in the kitchen. So, you know, it's not an easy job. In waitressing and waiting tables, fortunately for me, I guess I never had to do that, but I've had a lot of former students that do it, and they tell you that it's pretty physical. They're worn out by the end of the day.
Yeah, but you know what's cool? Burleson is so generous. Our customers, my staff here in Burleson makes so much more money than my staff did at the restaurant I owned in Keller. Burleson just seems to have an appreciation for people that work hard.
Yes, they do. And there's a lot of good people. On the other side of the commercial break, we're going to talk about Burleson and whatnot and what it means to run a business. And also the one in Mansfield. I haven't been to that one that your brother runs.
It's okay.
Yeah, yours is better, I'm sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, it's delicious. It's just as good.
Is it the same kind of menu, same kind of service?
Same exact menu. He has a couple menu items different than mine. Things that worked in Mansfield that we didn't really do here in Burleson and vice versa, but it's exactly the same experience.
It really is. And I honestly, I can't tell you how many people I've said, oh, I'm going to go to our place for this, or, you know, he's a sponsor of my show. Oh, I just love that place. I mean, you developed this really strong reputation in this community.
We've been blessed.
And that's part of it. And before I go to the commercials, is because you and your brother were distributing baby formula. And you have some right now, right?
Yeah, we do. We just got 3 more cases in last week. It's kind of hard to come by again.
Yeah, I heard that. So what does somebody have to do to get a container of that?
Just come in and ask for it. Go to IHOP and eat, then drive over to my place and get it. We don't care. we have the ability to get it, and we get it at a pretty good price.
So purchase not required.
No. You know, someday, hopefully we won't have to do this. We just have the ability to get it, and it works for us.
And see, that's the kind of thing that Burleson needs every day. It needs a lot of, is there's just people that are willing to make these kind of choices and sacrifices. I mean, you know, maybe in some other situations, people might try to tie it into a promotional opportunity or try to get ahead economically, and you're basically say, hey, sister, you need something, come get it.
Well, I do feel bad during the pandemic when everybody was out of toilet paper. If you bought a coffee mug, I gave you a free roll of toilet paper. So I did take advantage then. I still feel pretty bad about it. But
Do you still have people stealing those coffee cups?
they're stealing them all the time.
Well, it's not just because they're trying to be, you know, greedy. I think it's like it's a memento of the occasion.
They're cool mugs.
They are, yeah. I have one. You gave me one last time you were here.
I didn't give you one. I never gave you one. How'd you get it?
You gave it to me.
I did give it to
yeah,
you.
but it has a box here of pecan pie and cookies. So there goes my sugar count for today.
But you checked it with your phone. So
I
you're
checked it.
okay.
I'm good right now. Yeah. But let's do the other round, and then we're going to talk about Burleson itself and running a business in this town.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you to, of course, our place here. You know, he's been a sponsor for close to 2 years now, and he's been very, very faithful, not just to the show, but also to the community, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's what I like about my sponsors, is that they really are community-minded people. They're not just here to just make a living, which is all good, but they really care about the communities that are in.
Yeah, they do.
And that makes me proud, and it makes it easy for me to sponsor them. I don't have to, you know, make up some story or whatever else, because they're all quality people, as this gentleman is. You've been to Wild Cigar, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of times. I love the place.
Yeah,
And I don't smoke.
But you don't have to smoke a cigar. But if you did, you want to try one, they can help you out with that.
Yeah.
But you go over there and you have a drink, you have a little conversation, you can think, It's quiet. It's in a nice location, you know. I know a lot of people have said they go to American Revelry for a meal and they'll go across to Wild and have a nightcap or something like that. And it's
Me and my friends have regular meetings there.
do you use their conference room or just sit around the table?
It's escape from the wife meeting.
Ah, yes.
Sorry, babe.
No. She probably is going to help.
Glad
you.
to get me out of the
Yeah,
house.
she'll probably drive you to the next one.
Yeah.
And so, but Wild Cigar it really is the kind of place that Burleson had been needing for a long time. And I just texted with Chris a couple of days ago, and he says things are doing great. And I said, well, it pays to advertise. Also, you know Tiffany well, Tiffany Griffin, Local Life Magazine. I know you have a little station there that you can pick this magazine up, but it goes pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
I loved the last cover with Mary Slaney.
Yeah.
I mean, that just captured her perfectly.
And the hometown hero, that whole thing was amazing. Great people.
Yeah, Daniel and Sarah, I'm connected with. I don't know the fourth young lady, but I'm sure she earned her position. So
Who was she again?
I'm not quite sure. I know maybe somebody that's listening could tell me her name, but because I can't remember exactly, but she must have earned it is for somebody to nominate her and Tiffany to put her in her magazine.
Yeah.
I like to have her on the show, but she's in California now after 2 weeks in Hawaii.
She needed a break from Hawaii.
Have you ever been to Hawaii?
Never.
I went there many, many years ago, and it's great weather and all this stuff, but after the 5th day, I was going crazy because everything's 6-7 hours behind. The only thing I really liked about it, you wake up Sunday morning about 7, and there's live NFL football on because of the time change.
Oh, my God, that's horrible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's just it's a different experience over there because you really do feel isolated because everything is happening over the seas or whatever it seems like.
But, that's kind of good, an escape from reality,
Well,
too.
yeah, but my wife loved it, and she'd go back again. But there you are. As far as operating a Burleson business, for the most part, you get a lot of support from your fellow business owners, don't you?
I have a private Facebook page that me and a lot of the other restaurant owners are on, and we share staff. If I have a dishwasher that wants more shifts, I'll put on there, hey, Mike wants to pick up a couple days. Or if somebody's out of Dr. Pepper, we share
Really?
supplies.
So-
or if I get a deal on a garbage service, I'll let these guys know.
So it isn't exactly a cutthroat operation.
No,
here.
we're not enemies. We
No.
support each other. I don't think there's a restaurant in town that doesn't help another restaurant.
Well, it's really good to hear because I don't know if it works that way in other communities, but I'm glad it does here that everybody sees this as a mutual thing. There's going to be enough restaurant business for everybody.
Yeah,
Of course, a lot of restaurants are moving into town,
absolutely.
and that doesn't faze you a bit.
No, I think again, Burleson is so generous, especially to independent restaurant owners. A lot of the restaurants coming to town are chains, and I think in some chains, Torchy's Tacos. I'm very excited about that.
So is Taylor.
Yeah, but I don't
Yes.
think it's going to affect our business at all.
Taylor, you going to be first in line at Torchy's?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Best chips and queso anywhere.
Really? I don't know if I think I've been to one time
Sorry
at
for
College
the offense.
Station, so I'm not an expert at Torchy's.
Torchy's is good, but I think there are going to be 3 more our places in town, and we'd still be busy. There's that many people in town.
Well, like I said, I've never seen your place even half empty. I think maybe the most is about a third empty, but it's 2/3 full.
I think that was government mandated.
Yeah. It's almost you have to select a time. But if you got like a 2 or 3 more breakfast, lunch kind of places, you'd be good to go. And I think that's great. And I think it's also a sign of how much the city is building. And, when I have the banner on, I have city council member on, they say it's a blessing and a burden in some ways because you have to account for all that, the infrastructure and building and all this other stuff. So it's just the pains of a growing city, I suppose.
Well, Alex and his business development team with the city are working on a program specifically for independent businesses in town.
Really? Okay. I think he mentioned that last time he was here.
Yeah, so it's very exciting. He's got a lot of cool stuff coming out. And other cities don't do this. I've got friends that own places in Arlington and Fort Worth, and the city doesn't support them like you get in Burleson. I think Burleson is kind of writing a book on how other cities should do it.
Yeah. And as far as criticism, how do you deal with that?
We burn them down. We destroy them.
There you go. Okay.
We don't give, it's constructive criticism. It's good. I've had people tell me my gravy is too salty or the corn isn't sweet enough or
Brother, put some sugar in it.
they're not always wrong. I had a guy the other day complaining that our breading was too thick. and we had a new guy working on a fryer, and he was breading the chicken fried steak a little heavy. So we look at it all with open eyes.
Well, you don't get a lot of abusive criticism, I hope.
Occasionally, but if you focus on the negative, you never move forward.
Right.
We look at it all, and if it's something we can do something about, it's great. I had a guy yesterday that was upset because his food was cold, and he was pissed. He didn't want to pay for his food, and I looked at the camera as he sat there and played with his phone for 15 minutes before he even ate. And I showed him. I said, "Sir, I got no problem giving you a discount, but I want you to know that you're yelling at my staff for something that was your fault."
Yeah.
And he actually got upset with himself for being upset. So,
well, I've never had that happen. No, the food comes in just right out of the oven, so I don't have that problem.
we're not perfect. We make mistakes.
Well, I haven't seen them, and I'm sure it's like I always tell people, who do certain things, when you're the bride at the wedding, you see all the defects. For us, we come in, we see a smooth operation. We see the wedding come off, and we don't have.
Yeah.
And if there's a little thing here, a little thing there, it's all good. We're all friends here, and that's kind of the way I look at it at most places. Is that things happen, and I'll get. I don't think hasn't happened in our place, but it's happened a couple times in other places where you get the wrong order.
Yeah.
Or I wanted this instead of that type of food, but. So what?
Yeah.
It really. I mean, life's too short to get worked up about those kind of things.
Making food for people is a daunting thing.
Yes, it is.
It's intimidating and scary. So you take it very seriously.
Yeah.
You got food safety. You got food taste. There's so many things you don't even think about.
Have you ever thought about doing something other than our place?
We're looking at a couple other concepts, my brother and I.
Well, I mean, outside the restaurant business entirely.
I've got a couple rental properties that I own. Really food and
So, but your brother Benji and you are going to try to produce a couple of different style of restaurants.
yeah, we're looking at a couple. We have a deli concept we're interested in. We have a pizza concept we're interested. I would love to have a gourmet burger place.
Here in Burleson or Mansfield or both.
Hopefully Burleson, Mansfield,
Yeah.
but we're looking for other locations for our place too.
A second one?
Second,
Okay.
third, fourth.
Okay.
Hopefully, my son will hopefully own one soon.
I see. Where are you looking?
We're looking at Cleburne. We're looking in Midlothian, Waxahachie.
So not another one in
Granbury.
Burleson, like on the other side of town or something like that.
I would love to have one in Burleson over by Target.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole bunch of people there that never come to my side of the highway.
Yeah. That'd be great, of course. And with all these car washes, they'll have clean cars.
If you got a dirty car in Burleson, something's wrong.
I was kidding with the mayor about that. I said, the people are complaining we don't have enough car washes here. But I guess, if you have something like that going on, you have restaurants moving in and all these car washes moving in, that tells you something.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. And, I'm glad to live here. I mean, there's sometimes you're like, man, these people are nuts. But, but you can get that in any community.
Yeah.
And I am really been privileged sitting in this seat talking to all these people that serve in nonprofits or other service capacities. I mean, they have their own business maybe, but they work with charities. I'm a big fan of Next Step Women's Center. I'm a big fan of Fitability TX.
We're supporters of both, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of a group called Re-Inspire, which Shandy runs, which helps get foster kids adjust to adulthood and that kind of stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of things.
Burleson
like
Opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And
so many good things.
I was talking with Sean Miner yesterday, and this education system offers so much more than what it did when I was teaching there.
Yeah.
I mean, in some cases, you can come out of there 2 hours or 2 years rather of college credit. That's astounding. What a savings it must be the families of Burleson.
Burleson's. I was talking to Dr. Jimerson the other day. My grandson went to school in Grandview, and he had recently moved to the Burleson School District. He's now at the 98th percentile. He's in 4th grade, but is reading at an 8th grade level.
Really?
And he attributes that, my grandson does, to the Burleson School District. He just loves it.
Well, that
good
and
education.
They can accommodate something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, your grandson is pretty bright, and so they don't just pigeonhole him into something. That was one thing that I noticed right from the very beginning when I started teaching, particularly high school in 1990, was the talented and gifted programs and the special ed programs and the remediation programs, and now besides just those, of course, AP and dual enrollment added to it, but also they have all these skills. Did you ever use the culinary center at over at Centennial?
I never have. Never
You
even
need
been
to,
in it.
you need to take a look at it.
I've heard that.
Oh, Miss Pam Toole says we'd love in our place near Target. Okay, so you got one vote.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Pam.
That you need to go check it out if it's possible, because it's a really nice place. And also one near your brother's joint, Ben Barber, over there on 1187.
He's been in there and he's cooked in that one.
Yes, and it's impressive. I went to visit there, a friend of mine there 12 years ago, and I'm like, you come here and work like this every day. I had went in there culinary arts and went like, a couple of tables with a tablecloth on it and a plastic flour on it, and here's your spaghetti or whatever it was. I had like beef brochette and this really fancy stuff, and had a souffle for dessert. And
Mansfield, huh?
Yeah, at the Mansfield Ben Barber School, and all and fried asparagus or something like that. And she had sea bass, my friend did, and she worked there. And she said, "I'll pay for it." And I thought, "Oh gosh, that gotta be expensive. It cost about $7. You pay for the food, but the kids are doing all the training. So you got to check that culinary arts out.
Absolutely, I will.
I think they've done a lot better at providing for the needs. Oh, dadgummit, what is it now?
So you're talking about food.
No, it just, you turn this alarm off. I'm going to have to do something about this.
Oh, you're just like my grandpa.
Yeah, well.
Darn contraption.
It's just irritating, but it is what it is. Anyway, maybe it'll save my life one day.
I hope so.
Anyway, there's something I probably should address, if I don't mind encroaching on your time, and that was... I had several people ask me about what happened last night at the city council meeting, and all I have to say is this one thing: thanks for listening.
Yeah, I watched that,
and that's all I got. I'm not getting involved in that. Thanks for listening.
It's nice that you were brought up, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah,
and it really, and it's just not worth it. But like I said, thanks for listening, and that's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say. But anyway, let's go back to you. I mean, you were talking about this before. Arslanovski, that name has an interesting history. What you were telling me, why don't you tell us all about that?
Yeah, my dad grew up in Yugoslavia. It was a communist country, and he escaped the communist country, him and my uncle, but they got arrested trying to escape. So they went to prison for probably a year. When you try and leave a communist country without permission, they throw you in jail. He learned how to make Persian rugs in jail, actually. When he got out, the first thing he did was get a fake ID. Our last name is originally Arslani. He went and got a fake ID that said his name was Arslanovski because it denoted that he was Polish and he was able to cross the borders and leave the country. So they did escape, him and my uncle, using that last name. Later, my dad became naturalized in America and got his citizenship, but they used the only paperwork he had, which was his fake ID. So, my last name is not truly actually our last name. We just never got it changed back.
Well, I've had stories like that before from when I was teaching kids, and they said, well, the same story happened to their grandfather or their great-grandfather. They moved in from, Central Europe or Italy or something like that, and the guy at the Ellis Island or wherever they entered was like, I'm too tired, and they spelled out a name that they could pronounce themselves.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, by the choice of the person doing the immigration, said they wanted to acclimate to America quickly, so they took on a more American-sounding name. That kind of thing. But your dad was not just some roustabout in Yugoslavia. He was a student, wasn't he?
He was an economics major.
So he came here and got a job as an economics teacher, right?
Washing dishes as an economics teacher.
Yeah.
He couldn't get any job in his field, so he started washing dishes and then cooking and became a chef. He's quite a character.
Well, that's interesting because that's a story I hear a lot. Is that we get this idea that everybody that's coming to this country, trying to get into this country, have nothing but manual skills.
Yeah, and
that's just not true. I mean, a lot of these people that are coming legally or without documentation have educations.
Yeah. I hired a girl yesterday that's a business major, and she's so smart, like amazingly smart, and she's got a temporary work visa to work in America right now, but I hired her as a hostess, and it's one of the few jobs she can get right now because long-term she doesn't know if her citizenship will be full-blown and she can stay, so nobody wants to hire her.
Jessica Valley Reams says, hey.
Hey, Jess.
Yes, we know her well. You need to come back on the show when we get around to it, Jess. I haven't seen you in a little while, but I'm sure you've been very busy. She gets up like at 4 o'clock in the morning to do spin classes, and I say, you got to be crazy. But
Come get a hat, Jessica.
Come get a hat. If I have any left, I might have to get my Mandy from Creative Concepts by Mandy to make a few more. Anyway, but, I've done shows on immigration. And it's a very controversial subject because there's a lot of assumptions that are false about immigration.
Yeah.
And it tells something to me that throughout our history, just the incredible sacrifices and efforts people have made to come to this country. Mm-hmm. And here your father's trying to escape communism. And here Jessica's answered my question about coming on the show. She's actually across the street, she says. She has a outfit nearby. Anyway, the point is that the sacrifices people make, what they left behind. I mean, when your dad got here, he wasn't exactly probably bringing 3 suitcases of stuff.
No, it's probably not even a duffel bag.
Yeah, probably at best just a small bag of his clothes, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And I hear this story a lot, because we seem to think that immigration is something that's just happening now, but I've had students for a long time, and they come from all over the world. All right, I've had Asian students. I've had some that are south the border, and that means not just Mexico, but all over. But I've had them all over, and the stories they tell me, and I ask, they're pretty hard stories, and I say, "Well, do you kind of regret what happened?" And absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not, because they see the promise of this country, and I saw more of it in Burleson the last 2 or 3 years I was teaching at VHS. Do you remember that episode where all these young teenage kids, younger kids, were coming up from Guatemala, Honduras, etc., on top of trains? This is about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and the news is making a big deal about this caravan coming in and all this other stuff. I got some of those students. I had 4 of them. They were from Honduras.
Hardworking and grateful, right?
Yes, I had 4, and I had another young man already in the class. He was from Nicaragua. That was there, I'm sure, without documentation. And we don't ask that in schools. People say we shouldn't have those in our schools. Well, we don't even ask that, and that's not really what we're about. But anyway, that's another whole conversation. But the Nicaraguan boy could speak decent English. These 4 Hondurans didn't have hardly any English skills.
Yeah.
And my Spanish is pretty embarrassing. I know enough to communicate, but I wasn't exactly fluent in it. Yeah. And so I'd have him interpret sometimes. And all 4 of these boys were in high school back in Honduras. These weren't,
Have you kept up with them?
No, first of all, they're very guarded because they're afraid that they're going to be exposed. And by the end of the semester, we got along pretty well, and we got along fine. And they were very grateful to me personally about teaching them. But they kind of, after they left school, that's it. They're not really willing to open up to a lot of people.
Scary. I had an employee that was a Dreamer kid. He was part of the Dream Act. Mm-hmm. And back a couple of years ago, there was a lot of fear that the kids that were part of the Dream Act were going to all of a sudden be deported because I think the program wasn't being renewed.
Right.
And I urged him to keep up with his paperwork and stay on top of it because he was going to go to school and be an architect and he was going to join the military. Instead, he chose not to stay with the Dream Act, again, because he was scared. He'd watch television programs that told him he was going to be deported if he did it. Well, now the kid's a welder and, working 90 hours a week instead of...
Well, that's a very similar story to Antonio Basala, who was as a sponsor for a while, and the reason he's not now has nothing to do with the show or him. It's just he's an electrician, and he's got all the work he can handle. So he still operates at Proactive Payment Solutions, but it's just he's in such demand as an electrician now.
That's good.
And he had the same story. I had him on the show about 3 months ago. Same story. He was going to join the military, and his mom said, "Well, there's something you need to know." And he had been brought over as an infant from the Philippines. He and his sister both. And that was interesting for him.
So he didn't know. He
did not know. And part of that Dreamers Act was that he needed to get references, among other things. He had to have a clean record. You had to be an academic record. And you need references. And he and his sister came and asked me for references, which I gladly gave him. His sister still serves in the Air Force.
Oh, good.
And he, of course, he's a booming business. So, I mean, this is the kind of success stories I like to hear about. You know, I always get a little bit churned when I say they're coming to take our jobs. No, they're not. And they're not coming here to be a bank vice president. They're coming here to work in
People
the
have
yard.
the misconception that if we're helping somebody, it's taking something away from us, but it's not.
No,
It's adding to everything.
no, and I've brought this up before, and a couple of the more intense members of this community said I'm in favor of open borders. I am not in favor of open borders. I'm in favor of a controlled immigration process, but it does. I think we have to remember the human element and what's going on here.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people that illegally get in this country are not good people, but 99% of them are. I fully disagree with Mr. Trump's assessment of them a few years ago, that they're all a bunch of criminals and whatever else. Because I always thought the lazy bums are back in Central America or wherever they're from. I think that's another misconception also, is they're all from Central America. We're getting them from everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
We get them from Ireland, a
whole
lot. Nobody gets worked up about that.
Well, no, the whole baby formula thing. People were upset with the government. They said they were giving baby formula to immigrants. What they're actually doing is they had baby formula available when they captured these immigrants. And they had to feed the babies. It's humanitarian.
Right.
It's not.
Right. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You just not feed the babies. I mean, that's just craziness. And like I mentioned before, people criticize us, the school system, and the state of Texas actually requires it as well. And I think it's a federal law, but I'm not sure. But we don't ask we just ask if they're a resident of the district. We don't ask if they're a citizen of the country. And people get critical about that. And I say, well, what do you want from them? I mean, they're going to come here. We want them to be educated. We want them to be like Antonio,
Absolutely.
to create businesses and get trained skills, And as far as withholding things from them, that's going to create intense pain and suffering on a group of people.
And helping others does not take away from us.
Exactly right. And, in response is, well, they could stay where they are. Well, if you trace back into the immigration histories of a lot of our families here, mine included, they just came.
Yeah.
My my great-grandfather came here in 1884, and we have his documentation of how he got here. He mentioned nothing about going through channels.
What's your nationality?
It's Swedish, but I'm not particularly big on Sweden myself. It's not like I yearn for the Fords or whatever they got going on. But no, my grandfather came from a small town outside of Stockholm, and I tried to pronounce it phonetically, and then I had Google pronounce it. And it was totally different. Wow. Yeah, but he came here and married a woman from Germany, in Kansas. And he back in the late 30s wrote down his story for posterity. We have it. My dad has like an archive of this stuff, and he wrote in blue wax pencil, and they laminated it to preserve it. And it talks about his trip all the way from Sweden to London to New York to Chicago, and he walked the rest of the way to Kansas.
Wow.
And so that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, he married a woman who was born in Germany, and I still see their tombstones when I go visit that part of Oklahoma. And so it's but there's no mention about documentation or papers or whatever else. So this has been the story of America since we found it.
We all came from someplace.
Yeah, well, and see, your father must have seen something in America you liked.
He told me it was the women.
Well, that's good enough, ain't it? Yeah, the women.
No, actually, he was where he lived in Yugoslavia. It was he had an arranged marriage set up, and he didn't want to be any part of that. So that actually helped motivate him to leave the country. He wanted freedom.
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah,
leaving the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I guess breaking the engagement wasn't an option.
No, he just kind of left.
What did your grandparents think of that?
I don't think they were too happy with him for a while, but he came here and made a great name for himself. He actually sponsored, probably 15 families to come over. And I remember every other month our couch would be gone or our TV would be gone because he would donate it to families that came over. So.
I know this is kind of a deviation of what we were going to talk about, but I find these kind of conversations with you all interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about business and all this other stuff, but I find what's on the mind of the citizens of Burleson really interesting because, it's more than just making money. I mean, I know politically, you're pretty close to the vest on all of this stuff because you you just don't really want to deal with some Yahoo yelling about it. But
But you know what? I'm surrounded by yahoos yelling at me. So I'm okay with that.
you're okay. Well, you know, I'm sure you agree with everything I've ever said on this show.
Pretty much.
Please, I know that that's not everything, but
I don't know how to define myself. Maybe you can help me.
pretty moderate.
So I
mean,
own guns. I like guns, and I don't want anybody to take them away. So.
right. But I would say you're pretty much like most Americans. I mean, you have some inclinations that may tilt one direction, like a little left, but you have others that tilt to the right. And, you know, this idea that you have to be in a certain category, and to be in that category, you have to hit every mark in that checklist, or else you're going to get crap for it. It's one of the worst things.
But
that's
nobody
happening
hits every mark.
No,
I think
mean,
they
I've
want to.
You know, I've had people tell me, you know, think I'm conservative, but also been called an evil Democrat.
I've heard that.
Evil Democrat. I mean, calling me a Democrat, that's just below the belt.
When you squint, you look like an evil Democrat.
You know, but you know, I get criticism because I'm not on the Trump train, and I get criticism because maybe I'm conservative on certain issues, and it's
Some
fine.
center left.
I wouldn't even say that. I think you're moderate with a couple of left leanings. I mean, but most of the time you're pretty much down the middle. When we've had our conversations, I mean, you're not dogmatic at all, and you're also the attitude is, well, you know, that's cool for you. What you think? Good for you. I'm not here to convince you otherwise, or try to make my point that I'm smarter than you and all this other business. But no, I get some static that I'm too liberal, and I think if you really knew who I was, you'd see how ironic that statement is.
I think we've fallen into this trap of, like, here's a great Jimmy bringing up the SRO thing the other day.
Be careful now.
No, I don't necessarily think it was a bad thing, him questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was looking for data. I don't think the city should go that route with its own police force in the school district at all. I think that's a mistake. But I don't necessarily fault him for asking about it. I think that's part of his job to inquire.
I've said this on the show. I've similar is that part of discussing these issues is part of city council business. I don't know if that was the right place or time, and I don't think Billy Cordell was prepared to answer all this, and that was the problem. And I've talked to several people over on the show about the SRO issue, and to a person, they like the system they have now.
I think it's a great system.
Yeah, and they want to expand it. Now, is it illegitimate to say, can we look at other things? No, but when you take the approach that was taken in that meeting, where people didn't have a chance to put input into it, to put in their say in this, to have the staff be prepared to answer the kind of questions that were being thrown at Billy Cordell, that's a different thing entirely. And that's what my criticism was, is not so much that they dared to question the SRO program. That's what city councils do, is they look at everything they do and see if it's working well or
Blindsiding
not.
people is not good.
No. And
they did it to Tiffany and Brooke Mathis a couple weeks before that.
Yes, and I've got some static about that as well. But because, again, there is certain conduct and decorum that should be observed in these situations. And in those cases, I don't think they were. And all this. But the point about that is that had things been done in a different manner, and had Billy had the chance to be prepared to defend or, modify or whatever, he thinks about the SRO. And I had him on the show about right before this meeting, and it really was just a coincidence. The SRO program is one of the best things we do. And I mean, and the people that operate it, the men, and I guess they have a couple women now, are trying to, on campus, they're the best we got. They're not like assigned to it because they're no good. These people are some of the best we have. And Billy said the first question he asked them before they even go through the training is, are you going to take a bullet for these kids? And if he gets an answer he's not satisfied with, move on. But anyway, the back to all that business. It's been kind of tough on both of us.
Yeah.
What's gone on, and not just social media and all this, but I really, for every one or two incidences like that, I get a 10 to 15 positive interactions.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think of. I don't really worry about the other stuff. And, because you're not going to make everybody happy.
If you're not breaking eggs, you're not making omelets.
I guess. It makes a lot of difference to me that I've had 2 city council members, a school board member, and the mayor, and I'm going to have Victoria on Thursday, and they all are on from the same mindset about this. Okay, so the SRO program is going to stay where it is. We're going to expand it.
Good. It needs to be.
Yes. People bring up the expense, and that's not an unmerited consideration because it ain't cheap. But I just think in the longer run, it's well worth it. It may be a short-term expense up front, and then of course they have the ongoing expense of salaries, et cetera. But I think it's well worth it.
So what kind of cities have their own police department?
Mansfield does, and yeah, and I when I first started talking about this, I was half informed about it. Cindy McGuire, I don't know if you know her, but she's a listener. She kind of spelled it out for me that the Mansfield has their own school system of police. And see, when I'm thinking of school system police, I'm thinking of Uvalde and how terribly they failed.
Yeah.
She says that the Mansfield ISD police are quality cops, and that they have the ability to make citations and arrests like a regular cop. Apparently Uvalde didn't, but that's their problem.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it resulted in what it did. However, she will also go on to say about the expense of it. And since Mansfield is much larger than we are, they may be able to swing that more, but we would never be able to afford our own police force. And there was suggestions from the city council that they could have like rented security or not even peace officers. And no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
That can't happen. And so,
I think the people of Burleson are okay that their tax dollars are going to protect their kids.
For this, they are. Yeah. I know that people complain about their tax rates, and everybody complains about taxes. I complain about taxes. Dadgum this thing. All right. Anyway, I thought I had it on, but anyway, the tax thing. No one likes paying taxes. You don't like paying taxes.
I love it.
Oh yeah, sure you do. You probably get taxed out your wazoo because
of it.
Yeah, but this is one of those critical things, and that's just part of the responsibility of the city. It's not just streets and picking up the trash and make sure the water runs. It's also security of its citizens, and that's where it's at now. I have a feeling that this issue is pretty much going to go away for a while. I talked to Sean Miner yesterday, and they're going to have like these intergovernmental discussions between the district and the schools, which they've had before. The district and the city have had numerous discussions on this topic as long as we've had an SRO program, and they're going to work on that. And they're going and Sean was telling us about all the plans they have to increase security at the schools that the school system could bring about. And they're not going to wait on the city. They're also going to bring about some of their own, like some architectural changes in their buildings. And they hired a gentleman I know well, Scott Sheahay, to be like a head of a security operation. And
well, what was Billy's opinion? I didn't watch that show. He likes it the way it is.
Yes,
and I trust his judgment. He's
well. At the time, this wasn't even a discussion. The point is, like, it was before that council meeting we were talking about. So we really weren't talking about the possibility of it going away, but we were talking about it as it is at that day, and he loves it in the sense that he knows he has ace cops on the campus.
Yeah,
and that made a real difference. And we talked about the training program. It was also said on another platform that the cops don't train anymore for active shooters. That was only a COVID thing. I know they train for active.
Oh yeah,
shooters.
They do.
Yeah, because I got the middle one back when I was still teaching, and they have resumed active shooter training at the campuses after that pause for COVID.
I think they've been doing it all summer at the schools.
They do it in different schools. I know they did it at BHS when I was there. And one time I was there on a Saturday, and they came in. I see this cop car pull up, another one pull up, and I said, "What's going on here?" And they come into my room and say, "Allard, you got to go. We're doing a training here," and so I had to leave. So I know they do it.
Yeah.
And Cordell said so. That because I asked him, "What do you do in these situations like Uvalde?" This particular show happened about 2 weeks after Uvalde, and he said, "Well, we do these various things. It's not just going to seminars, which they do. It's not just they're creating or have a training room in the facility that they have across from the administration building. So they go through like simulated situations, and they go through like on campus training. Would Burleson ISD police do that? Probably, but you're talking about tremendous expense on a school system.
It's starting all over.
Yeah, it's duplicating expense. But not only that, but Michelle Humphrey from Hotworks was here about 10 days ago. And in her previous career, she was a buyer in the purchasing department of a large district nearby. Mm-hmm. And she was telling me just how difficult it was to get anything. And I can vouch for that. I couldn't get a box of Kleenex or a box of paper clips without, a note from Congress.
Yeah.
But she was like telling us how difficult it was to just buy ordinary things, particularly if you're buying in a new area. You have to go through the whole vendor process, and then you can only buy from them, and there's all this paperwork, and like I said, had that meeting been set up to discuss what we're talking about now,
yeah,
we may not like the opinions that came out of it, but that's legitimate. What I don't like is just, first of all, them dropping Billy like that.
You think that's politically motivated to get fires burning?
Couldn't tell you. You'll have to ask them.
You can tell me. We're friends.
I can't tell you.
Okay.
You have to ask them what their motivations are. I don't understand, to tell you the truth, the timing of all this, because we saw the failure at Uvalde. You'd think we'd want to strengthen what we have as opposed to try to reinvent the wheel.
Maybe someone's trying to find relevancy. I don't know.
You're baiting me, Otto.
No, I'm really not. I'm like you, trying to figure it out. Sometimes things don't make. I make hamburgers. I'm learning as we go.
I really couldn't tell you, and I don't understand the timing of it. And but again, like I said, if it had been appropriately, and I guess also what bothers me is that the criticism of the policy should not always be equated with the criticism of the person. Yet it seems like they take it personally, and you're impugning them, and that they get on other platforms and accuse you of terrible things, and break out in tears because somebody criticized them as a public official. And I'm thinking, you can criticize the policy, you can criticize the approach, and not really make it personal unless you want to make it personal. And that's the way it is.
I think we don't communicate enough. I would be happy to talk to anybody that had doubts with anything I did.
Yeah. And, I really strive, honestly, to avoid, making, back and forth with those that don't agree with me. It's not what I want from the show. This ain't Jerry Springer.
No.
And it's not what I want.
And these chairs are too heavy to throw.
Yeah, but I also want to be able to say, I don't like this policy without people getting on other platforms and saying he's a terrible person and divisive and all this other stuff. I mean, that's not, it's not divisive to disagree. It's not divisive to say this is not a good policy or it wasn't well handled.
Yeah.
But that's what we get.
Well, I supported Ken Shedder for mayor. I love the guy. He's not the mayor anymore. I now support Chris Fletcher. We have coffee and lunch together often.
And I've had him on the show several times. We've had conversations. When he was first elected a couple of years ago, I had concerns. I think a lot of those concerns are no longer there. Yeah. And I think he's doing a pretty good job.
He's doing a good job.
And I know he wants peace in the community and all this other stuff. So I think he's doing as best he can. And he also has a steep learning curve.
Absolutely.
It's not, we got used to the, 12, 15-year experience, Ken Shedder. We need to give Chris as much time as...
What are we, 2 years in?
Yeah, and not even that. And so we need to make sure he has enough opportunity and time to learn. And I think he's grown in the job personally.
I do too. He's getting there. He definitely is.
Yeah, and so, so I kind of feel for him every now and then. But then I remembered he did raise his hand and says, I'll be mayor. So you get what you ask for, right?
Do you have any predictions for city council? I know it's going to be chaotic regardless of what happens.
I think May is a very, very, very important election.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't have any names in front of me.
Me neither.
Nobody's contacted me and said about running or not running or anything like that. So I can't even speculate projected, races or anything like that. The mayor has said on this show on where you're sitting that he is going to run again. As far as the others, I know Ronnie's considering it. I know Dan is considering it. But the others I don't know. And I'll let them speak for themselves. I'll ask Victoria Thursday if she wants to answer that question.
Oh, she's on the.
This Thursday, 2 days.
I like Victoria a lot.
Absolutely.
She's done a great job.
She's a former student, and I've known her for many, many years, and she was like that as a student. Very, I don't know, just intuitively into what was going on with the community.
Good energy.
Politics, and this is a right career for her.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's so. As far as what May goes, I think it's very, very important. I think if we like the progress that we're making as a community, then we need to factor that into our voting. There are people that would prefer that we drag Burleson back, and because of whatever thing we want to assume. But
backwards is bad, and I hope this one isn't partisan.
We really need to move forward, and some people in this community yearn for the days Burleson was just an old cow town.
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen.
No.
And we need people that are alert to that and that truly put the city in front of them as their main objective, not personal agendas. And I don't know if anybody, like I said, I don't know anybody who's running. But that would be the first thing I ask, and I would ask for them to prove it. I don't want to hear campaign rhetoric. Yeah, I love Burleson. I'm putting it's on my heart all the time. Show me by your actions.
Yeah.
Show me how you treat people. Show me how you handle yourself in meetings. You handle yourself with decorum and professionalism, and you accept the outcome of votes, and you don't go to social media to complain about fellow members or our place restaurant, which I've seen.
Yeah.
Or I'm a target because I chose to be with this program. But it's ridiculous to me that when things don't go certain ways, not only is your character and motives impugned, but they do it in a fashion that I think is kind of cowardly.
Well, that alludes to what you talked about with if someone has a different opinion, they're all of a sudden your enemy.
Yeah, and it
shouldn't be that way.
Well, I look at the school board. I'm friends with all of them. I was friends with them when I was still working there, and there's more than once I wish they chose option B instead of option A, but I never really thought of them as, well, they're doing it for personal, selfish reasons.
Yeah.
And they may have information I'm not privy to. But there was 2-3 times. I told this with Ronnie because he was on the school board for all that time. There was a couple of times I thought, man, it's not a good decision by the school board. But I never thought Ronnie Johnson or his colleagues on the board were doing it because of some personal gain or personal aggrandizement, grandstanding, whatever else, personal, and they never expected to make us all happy all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's my thought on it, is that, if the city council votes X and I wish they'd voted Y, as long as it's a fair hearing, as long as both sides got equal time, as long as properly handled, appropriately done, as long as the decorum of the council is maintained, move on to the next issue. Yeah. And that's it. And don't bellyache about it on social media or other platforms. And so it is what it is.
It is what it is. We got some exciting times ahead.
Yeah, we do. And, so the vast listening audience, if you know people that might want to join the city council, well, we'll give you the ins and the outs of it. Oh, yeah. So it's interesting. It's and I've asked, does this occur in other towns? And I have people in Grandview go, God, you got to see our group. I mean, or another, some of these towns around here. Are you kidding me? It's like WWE over here and that kind of stuff. So
I don't like the ugliness. I've seen Catherine and her family ripped apart online. I've seen Tamara's family ripped apart online. People are mean to each other. I don't think there needs to be meanness.
I'm not interested in one iota in discussing personal lives of people.
Absolutely not.
Not online, but they're serving. I don't care. It's like the old Godfather motto: "Leave the children and wives out of it." That's that's how I feel about it. There's no need to dig in the backgrounds or whatever, and yet when Victoria was running, they were trying to run pictures of her and apply certain things. Like, good heavens, and that just leave that stuff out.
Catherine's inspection sticker being expired was a big deal for some reason.
Yeah, it isn't. And so and all the other stuff that we unfortunately have come across in social media. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
I really am not. You know, when if we get two candidates running in May, and you know, I'm not going to be asking about backgrounds or problems they may have experienced in their lives. I don't want to relitigate my life. I made dumb decisions in my life. I've told people before there was a period of time where alcohol was a little bit too much of a controlling factor, and I don't want to relive that. And you know, because I made dumb decisions. Nothing like DUIs or nothing like you know assault or nothing like that. It was just turning me into somebody I didn't like.
Are there pictures of Brad Allard dancing on a bar?
Maybe. You know, and so I'm just saying I wouldn't do that to an opponent because they deserve a shield of privacy. And now if I had an arrest record or something like that, I think that's a little different because that does impact them on the job and all that. I don't have one, by the way, thankfully. But as far as like, well, I heard 10 years ago he told a dirty joke to somebody, you know, that kind of crap. That, you know, who cares? Anyway, we got over time, haven't we, Taylor?
Just a little bit.
I'm sorry, bud. I know you got busy things to do today. We just went over time. I'll do a shorter show next week or something. Let you off a hook. Anyway, we can skip the ads rotation. We already talked about them. We've been talking about other stuff here. I'm sure we'll get some reaction.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Thank you, Burleson.
Yeah, thank you, Burleson, also, because I've gotten a lot of nice comments the last couple of weeks about the guests I've been having. And like I said, Thursday, we're going to be talking to Victoria Johnson.
I'm in a winter sandwich.
Okay, you know, winter sandwich between Sean and Victoria.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. And we'll see y'all Thursday.